Hello and welcome to another episode of Uncle Ray's Reading Nook. I'm your host, Uncle Ray. So, I'm going to be doing these videos weekly as Jared Collins, I believe his middle name's Filbert, Jared Filbert Collins has not yet reached out to me about being on his show. I believe his show is called, I don't know, something like Megadeth Presents Reading Rainbows and something like that. But, you know, it's a pretty prestigious show, and he hasn't invited me on, so I'll do my own videos. I'll keep doing them until I'm invited. I'm a local author, Jared. Alright, first up, what do we got? First up, we have I'll Be Gone in the Dark by author Michelle McNamara. Unfortunately, Michelle had passed away in April of 2016, right before she finished her investigations. But the book was published after her death by her husband, Patton Oswalt, comedian Patton Oswalt, and several of her researchers helped round out the book and finish it. This is a true crime novel. All the events depicted in this book actually took place in, it's the Golden State Killer is what they're calling it, but it's in Southern California from 1965 through 1986, I guess. All up and down the coast of California, Southern California, up until Northern California. This guy got away, pretty much. Just to give you a little brief overview of what his crimes were, he raped 50 plus women and murdered 17 people during that time, from the 60s to the late 80s. And he was never captured or identified. They only had several vague sketches of him when she first started her research. She spent like more than a decade trying to track this son of a bitch down. And she gets super close in this book. I'm talking like within 6 or 7 suspects out of thousands that the police, mulled through. Now, you're probably asking yourself, well, how could somebody slip through the cracks like that? DNA technology is not a very old thing. It's a very new thing, and didn't really take hold until the 90s, mid-90s to late 90s. So this guy, nothing was linking him to these cases until they started reviewing the DNA evidence and found that it was one particular guy. They called him EAR, E-A-R, which was East Area Rapist. And then eventually the Golden State Killer is what Michelle actually came up with that name. The book follows her journey from childhood, a murder that happened on her block that she wanted to solve when she was a kid, all the way up until she starts working on this book, and then through her passing. And it actually has a really awesome afterword by her husband explaining, the thought process of still putting the book out. And I would not be surprised that the evidence that she collected in this book and other evidence she's passed on to law enforcement catches this guy, or at least they find out what happened to him. I'm of the opinion that he may be deceased, but at any rate, one of the best true crime books I've ever read in my life. 5 out of 5 stars. I couldn't put it down. I read it in 2 days, and then I went back yesterday and reread the first few chapters and looked at the maps, detailed maps inside of the areas. And somebody that's a big fan of California, like I am, I was surprised that you didn't hear about this. I mean, it goes all the way from Southern California, Anaheim, through Santa Barbara all the way up to Oakland, San Francisco, murders in Sacramento. I mean, crazy. Prolific serial killer, this guy that you know. It's, if you're a fan of true crime at all, this one will get you, because you've never heard of this dude, and when you read this, it gave me nightmares. Crazy book. Highly recommend it. Oh, what do we got now? Let me check my messages. Hold on. Nope. Still nothing from Jared. All right. Moving on. The next book I'd like to talk about on Uncle Ray's Reading Nook. Uncle Ray's Reading Nook. I got this for my birthday from my boss, one of my bosses at work. This is the Onion magazine iconic covers. It's all of their top headlines made out to be covers of magazines, and there's some fantastic stuff. This is one of my favorites. The Onion magazine. It says, "America's homeless, still the best in the world, USA." Phenomenal. But if you're a fan of satire and the Onion magazine in general, you'll get a kick out of this. Some of these covers are just fantastic. Like this one, top 10 products that will make you a good parent. And there's like beer and stuff in there. Here's a good one. The Weekender, coping with shit. Expert advice for emotional weaklings like you. And are our nation's sewers filthy enough? I mean, if you're a fan of satire, this is a good coffee table book. It's fun to have, sitting around. It takes it's a nice conversation piece. But again, it's called the Onion magazine's iconic covers. I highly recommend it. It's really great. What time is it? Oh, it is plug time. Time to plug my stuff again. I'll always do it. You know I will. Right now on Amazon.com, you can buy my novella. I have this recurring dream about... I have a recurring dream. That's the name of the book. But it's about two young star-crossed lovers who may or may not be really in love, or they may or may not be psychotic. You buy this bad boy at $9.99 on Amazon.com. Artwork by Ace Mays. Or if you're a you need a little pick-me-up, and you're like, oh man, I don't really like reading novels all the way through. I'd rather just read pieces of stories. You can get my collection of short stories, Farewell Forever by Randall Woten, on Amazon.com for $7.99. That's a very fair price. This book is huge. It's laid out. It's got a weird layout because I didn't know what I was doing. It was my first book, and it's very big print for the elderly. I have this recurring dream, $9.99, and Farewell Forever, $7.99. Amazon.com. Search the keywords Randall, 1L, Woten, Woten. Thank you very much. If you do purchase the book and you've read it, leave me a review. If you don't like it, even leave me a review even if you don't like it. I honestly don't care. Review's a review. So, all right. That's plugging my own stuff. What do we got finally? I'll be reading, this is my segment I call Future Reads. Boom. Marvel Zombies. I'm finally getting around to this. It's been out for a few years. A lot of you comic book fans have probably already checked it out, but it says, torn from the pages of the Ultimate Fantastic Four, on an Earth shockingly similar to the Marvel universes, an alien virus has mutated all the world's greatest superheroes into flesh-eating monsters. It took them only hours to destroy life as we know it. But what happens when they run out of humans to eat? Follow their search for food and witness the arrival of the Silver Surfer. I'll be checking this out here in the near future. It's written by Robert Kirkman. Looks like there's a couple other authors on there. Mark Miller gave a pretty good review. Let's see who the actual creators are. Sean Phillips, Robert Kirkman. But the artwork in this looks really insane, and I'm looking forward to. I always like a good zombie story, and a Marvel zombie story at that. So I believe I will check that out. This has been Uncle Ray's Reading Nook. Read, folks. Stay tuned.